Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 220. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 8th of the 5th, 2023. We're talking about the issues inside Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm highlighting the fact that when we see laws break down, we get more problems getting people to follow those laws. We get problems getting people to follow those laws. Here's a prime example, and I gave this example for people who in a previous life around the bomb threat that the schools got. That bomb threat that sent everyone home. That bomb threat that sent all those children home. There's a rule in school that all phones are to be off and in your school bag. Good evening, Scafty. It is to be off and in your school bag. After that bomb threat, some of the parents recognized. Wait, the children who disobeyed that rule and had their phone in their pockets were better off because they were better able to contact their parents and organize things. The children who didn't were forced out of the school without their phone, had to borrow phone calls, and had to leave their phone there for over the weekend, hoping no one stole it. So what do you think is the advice the parents gave after that? When the parents recognize, wait, when we follow the rules, it does not help us. Do you think the parents who went through that experience, do you think they would still be telling their children, make sure and obey that rule, turn off your phone and put it in your bag, eh? Do you think they would? I could tell you personally, as a teacher, I've heard many parents of very well-disciplined children, they have said it already. I tell my child, keep that phone on you at all times. You see how this place getting? You have to have that phone on you all the time, eh, girl? Why is that? Now, the rule itself is broken down. It's difficult to get people to follow that rule now. And that's something as simple as in a school. Now, if you have a country of 1.4 million people and the people start to realize, Nathan, we are teaching rule breaking indirectly. Yes, but this is what happens in inevitably positive relation. You must understand, humans don't work on rules. Humans work on incentives. If you make a rule that everyone must starve to death, would everyone starve to death or would everyone break your rule? That's the way it works. So in a society, it's not the rules that really get people to function, it's the culture. And if the culture is as such that it doesn't work with these rules, the culture would move away from the rules. Joe says, are they wrong for them to tell their child that? Let's get real here. But what child do have their phone in their hand 24/7? Empress Rooney, there were many children, Empress Rooney, that obeyed that rule and had no phones on them, left their phones in their backpack. There are obedient children out there, Empress Rooney, believe it or not. There are obedient children out there. What is the contradiction exactly here, Kermack? Because I don't follow it. I don't follow what's the contradiction here. I am saying that if we have improperly enforced rules, the people who would willingly usually follow the rules would recognize that, and you have the entire system falling apart. So here's another example. You said licensing office is corrupt. Correct. How many people in Trinidad and Tobago, people who may otherwise be generally honest people, pay for their license? How many of them pay for their Yes, I know you said it's corrupt. I agree. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm agreeing with you. It is corrupt. So, how many people paid for it? Why did they pay for it? You want to know why many people paid for it? Because they recognize that the legal, moral system of, okay, we are supposed to go and do a test and the licensing officer is supposed to grade me on how I drive and tell me if I pass or fail, it no longer functions like that. If I attempt to do it like that, they're going to attempt to mark me very hard and encourage me to pay the next time. So here's what, I'm just going to pay. That's the way it works in Trinidad and Tobago. The law could say what it wants. The law could say what it wants. It doesn't work on what the law says. That's my very problem that I was saying from the beginning with even the Judiciary CRIMAC, where so often when the police see these issues, what the police say you should do, as you said, was to go get your MP to make better laws. But there's already a law in place for the licensing division. It's just they don't follow the law. And when they don't follow the law, the population understands it doesn't make sense, and the whole thing unravels. That was the point I was getting at from the very beginning with the Minister of National Security and what I would consider his reckless statement about the judiciary, where I will say, listen, I am an online commentator. I am a guy on the interwebs, on the internet, that tells you his opinion. I am online here ranting. I am not the Minister of National Security. I do not have the same responsibility that he does. You are the minister with the responsibility for keeping the nation secure. Does undermining trust and confidence in the judiciary increase or decrease that security? And here's where my issue is with this. Well, so many places, but another part where my issue is with this. Like, okay, you're saying they have friends there. That's just Vaughan Scott. That's just randomly discrediting them. If you want to say a statement like that in the position you are in, if you want to say a statement like that, you have to get specific. You don't just go and throw that out there to dirty the whole group's name and just leave it out there in the ether unspecified. Where's the evidence? You have to say a specific thing. Where is the specific evidence that criminals have friends in the judiciary? If there's no evidence for that, that's a reckless, dangerous thing to say. When I quote my problems with the police, I don't just say that the criminals and the police is friend. I talk specific about the police collecting the bribes at the blocks, things that Trinis regularly witness. I speak specific, and I don't even have the responsibility to do that. I don't even have the responsibility. Captain Django, imagine if a Minister of National Security said that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, if a Minister of National Security spoke like I did about the police, that it's so corrupt. But do you have evidence? Do I have evidence about what, Mr. Do I have evidence about what? About the police corruption? Yes, I do. Would I want to show you it? No, I won't, because if you're an officer, you might get me killed. All right. But let's jump into some of these stories for the day, for the evening. Hines claim that criminals have friends in the judiciary sparks anger. Judges want apology. The judiciary has condemned the controversial statement made by National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines, alleging that criminals have friends within that fraternity. The judiciary broke its silence on the issue after 10 of the 16 High Court judges assigned to the Civil Division of the Supreme Court called for an official response to Hines's statement on Wednesday. Describing the statement as unfortunate, the release said, the judiciary notes that gratuitous statements such as those made by the Honorable Minister have a dangerous effect of undermining public trust and confidence in the judiciary and the rule of law, and as such have no place in society. But why are the criminals getting bail? We spoke about bail before. Lawyers play a part in this runaway crime situation. Now, CRIMAC, I don't know if you remember, we did speak about a lot of these things. And I do not think, let me say clearly in case anyone in the live has it mistaken, I do not think the police are solely to blame for the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago. I do not think so. However, I do believe Innocent until proven guilty. Yes, I know that. We spoke about that. We spoke about where that came from earlier. Y'all are jumping in a little late. On that note, by the way, all of this is streaming all on Instagram, on TikTok, and also on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer, over on YouTube. You could head over there and subscribe to me over there. If you miss any of the lives, you could get them there. They're replayed there. All of the 200, well, not all, the vast majority of the 220 lives are over there. You can catch it, Nathan Springer, over there. Didn't a young lady meet her? Listen, if you go, I have some old police partners, some guys who were in the police force for years, decades. You go and sit and have a conversation with some of them, and they tell you about some of the inner workings of the police service. And this is why I kind of have no patience when officers in the chat say otherwise, because I know, I have spoken to police, and I know for a fact every single officer saying otherwise in the live knows personally how corrupt the police service might be. I know that because I've spoken to officers, and when they speak to you privately, they let you know. They let you know, and sometimes some of them will let you know how hopeless it feels inside of the service. So, you know how many officers were pushed out of the service? How many officers had attempts on their lives? From other officers I'm talking about here. So come on, let's not mama guy ourselves here. Bro, my best friend is police. He told me personal stories of the corruption. Be for real. Crime is big money making business. That's facts. Fact. The good police have no say in the service. Don't even get promoted. See? I don't know that to be true. But these are the things that you hear. Now, if that is true, you know, you're saying that every single senior police is a bad police. That's what you're saying. If that is, let it be known, I am not the one who said that. Mr. Face over on TikTok said that. I am not saying that. But your implication is that every single senior police officer is a bad police. Just by the way, that's a scary place to be. And I don't actually believe that. I think if the entire police service was actively malevolent and corrupt and evil, we would have been in an extremely bad position. I don't believe that, but I believe we see the banality of evil. I don't know if you all ever heard that quote, the banality of evil. Banal is kind of boring, simple. Banal, boring, simple, you know, like nothing exciting about it. And the banality of evil is where there would be people in positions where they may be in a position to stop something really cruel from happening, but they're just like, you know what, not my business, and they won't. So I think that's something you see regular in this service also. The criminal justice system is in a mess, especially the courts, and I don't deny that. We spoke about that. The DPP highlighted this. The DPP said he has 50-something prosecutor lawyers and he needs 120-something. This makes no sense. And I spoke about this. I pointed out that for those of us who live in hotspot communities, if you know a bad man or two, if any of you know a bad man or two, is there any bad man in Trinidad that you know that doesn't have a current case in the courts? And for the officers there, this actually highlights something positive on the officer's side. If every bad man has a case pending in court, what that says is that at some point in time, the police arrested every one of them and charged them. The problem is that between the charge and the conviction, they could carry out a whole career of criminality. Darlan Rice says, bad man, what is that? Well, if you don't know, go on Instagram live and cuss somebody and say you mean it. If you want to know who is bad man, Darlan Rice. If you want to know who is bad man, Darlan Rice, go on Instagram live. Big and public. I will send you a name to cuss and tell them you mean it. And you will figure out who is bad man real quick. Trinidad, boy. I mean, it's not even funny, but it's funny, eh? It's not even funny, but it's funny when you think about it. It's kind of amazing how quick they are with it, you know. They have intelligence out there. They have their intelligence network. They find people like that, like somebody reading the stars in the background and stuff, and triangulating your position with the stars and stuff. They know where you be. The lawyer and judiciary are getting a cut in the money business. I don't doubt that, Von Scott. Of course the lawyers are. The judiciary makes money by the whole business either way, so I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that for one moment. Nathan, is it that the police prosecutors can't build good cases? I don't think that's necessarily it. I don't know if I will say the problem in Trinidad and Tobago is that when we reach in court we lose most of the cases. I don't even think that's necessarily the problem. Part of the problem would be that some of the prosecutors are overworked. If you have 50 people doing the job of 120, obviously they will not adequately do it. So they are overworked, their caseload is too high, so they would work slower, they would not work as complete. So some of those problems are kind of inbuilt, and that may not be the lawyer's fault. The prosecutor may actually be a proficient attorney. The prosecutor may be a proficient attorney, but just the situation they are put in makes it impossible. I'm not talking about the defense lawyer. I'm talking about the prosecutor lawyer here, the prosecutorial lawyers. And if the cases they're overworked, whose fault is that? So police need more positive radiation. The DPP has been complaining about this for years. Like, I don't understand how this is so difficult. We have lawyers in Trinidad and Tobago that need a job. We have a DPP office that needs lawyers. Police involvement stops when they charge and carry a person before the courts. Well, not totally, Joe. Don't the police have to go give evidence if necessary? Crimac says, is young prosecuting attorneys going up against seasoned defense lawyers? Well, Crimac, the thing is, I would rather that than none. Like, okay, give me 50-something young attorneys and at least they would be on the road to some experience eventually. But don't tell me, okay, well, they're young attorneys, so we're not hiring them, so we're leaving ourselves woefully understaffed and unable to do our mandated job. That one doesn't make sense. I rather the young attorneys. Like, okay, let the young attorneys go in there. Maybe they make a mistake and learn. It's better than no one prosecuting the case, and the case goes on for 17 years, and then a certain former attorney general jumps back and sues the government for some kind of wrongful something. Because, I mean, if you think about it, on a human rights basis, having someone in remand for 15 years should be against some human rights kind of law or rule. It should be. That should not be right. You should not have someone under constraint, under lock and key, without proving that they should be. That shouldn't be that way. So, like, if someone stays in remand for 17 years and then turns around and sues the state and wins, I don't like it. I don't like that the country loses money. I don't like that the person may even be a criminal and they get more money for it. I don't like that fact. But I understand it. And I'm not sure I disagree with it. Because if somehow I were to end up in jail for 15 years innocently and the state cannot prove their case on me, I want my money. In fact, I don't want to end up that way, but you understand. Crimac says that is not the reason persons stay in jail. There is not judges and magistrates, enough judges and magistrates. Crimac, you would have to argue that point against the DPP, because I have listened to an interview with the DPP over an hour long where he outlined this very specifically. There are more magistrates and judges, there are more courts in Trinidad and Tobago than there are prosecutorial lawyers. There are more courts in Trinidad and Tobago than there are prosecutorial lawyers. So I'm not sure if the problem is a shortage of judges. Like, on the basis of the right to a fair trial, what protection is offered or provided to state prosecutors? I don't know any specific protection necessarily. Kremak, you do understand you're not telling Nathan Springer this, right? You're saying that the DPP is lying about that? Kremak, I don't think you understand the topic at hand. And this is why you shouldn't jump into things like that. You shouldn't jump into things like that if you don't understand the topic at hand. The only courts in Trinidad and Tobago aren't the criminal courts. Right. I don't know how you are in a position to argue against the director of public prosecution about affairs on public prosecution, but sir, go strong. The DPP begged the government to free up the court from petty matters years now. Kremak, that's you are speaking about criminal matters. You can't tell me what I'm speaking about. Paul Duncan says, Nathan, what's the purpose of the Central Statistical Office if data should inform decision? Well, the purpose is to get the data. Now, if people look at the data, it's a whole other issue. Darlan Rice, you are spamming my chat and you will be muted if you continue. All right. On to the next one. That reckless statement has Hines in some apparently shaky waters. Latest twist in gun dealers abduction, judge calls in Hines. High Court Judge Devendra Rampersad has invited National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines to appear before him on Wednesday, giving the minister an opportunity to clarify his comment about criminals having friends in the judiciary. The Registrar of the Supreme Court was directed to send a letter to Hines, who is an attorney, to attend the hearing at Tower D International Waterfront Center, Port of Spain, but the minister is under no compulsion to do so, according to an order of the judge. And the thing is, I think Hines should go. I think Hines should go. I think he should go to the court and in front of a court of law explain exactly how he knows that the criminals have friends in the judiciary. If was a little black boy get kidnapped by the state, would we even be speaking about it right now? I hope so. Do you know of little black boys kidnapped by the state that we didn't speak about face? Like, I find the obsession some black people have with the in-tribe obsession, it's so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy. Always, what if the black people? Every day a black person is kidnapped, a black boy is kidnapped by the state. When was a black boy kidnapped by the state? Name the time, and no one did anything about it. Legally, he was illegally kidnapped by the state. And a time where, you know, all the details became known as clearly as this. Lotus 333 says 3% of the government budget should go to pay MPs and incentive pay. I don't mind that idea at all. It will look like an act of insubordination or mutiny to a point beside looking childish. Minister Hines should know he is not on the National Security Council. I don't know. Constitutional rights are violated daily. Okay, Mr. Face, saying constitutional rights are violated daily and saying black boys are kidnapped daily. You do understand those aren't the same thing. That's called moving the goalpost. I mean, if you want to say that, fine, you could say that. That's another thing. But Vindra Naipaul case, check it out. What about it to check out? Trinidad prison is like a hotel? I don't believe that at all. I don't think it's like a hotel at all. It's not. It's not. It's not. I mean, there's a lot of corruption in the prison service, which allows a lot of contraband on the inside. But I don't think anyone would prefer going to prison versus a hotel. It's not close to a hotel. And the prisons are only more accommodating if you're already a member of a gang, if you have a crew inside there. If you're just one lone hustler going in there, you best make friends real quick. Yeah, this chat getting very ignorant and silly. When is TNT going to start their decolonization? What do you mean by that, Lotus? When you say decolonization, what exactly do you mean? One of the accused was in a neighboring country, Nathan. In terms of what? In terms of the case that we were just speaking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about there. I'm not sure what you're talking about with the accused in a different country. If you're talking about the Brent Thomas case, yes, Joshua. Now let's go into the appeal. Let's go into the appeal quickly. Let's go into the appeal quickly so that we could get this for sure in tonight. Where is that appeal? Where is that appeal? To see if I can find the layout of the appeal that the state is doing on that. They're not taking that. State appeals Brent Thomas ruling. And listen to this reasoning. You all need to listen to this. Yes, it may clear things up, Sylvan. May. State appeals Brent Thomas ruling. Protection offered by TNT Constitution does not extend extraterritorially and is therefore not applicable to events taking place in Barbados and to the Barbados police. Yes, that's what I'm reading, Militant Rockstar. What happened on Barbados soil in the Brent Thomas affair stays in Barbados. One of the positions taken by the state in its appeal against the decision of Justice Devendra Rampersad in the lawsuit, which was filed by the firearms dealer against the state, is that what happened in Barbados cannot be sanctioned by a Trinidad and Tobago court. And listen, I find this argument coming from our police service, our Attorney General, by proxy our Ministry of National Security. I find this argument scary. Listen to what the police service and our Attorney General is attempting to argue to prove their case here. Listen to this argument. The state in its grounds of appeal is arguing that constitutional protection offered by the TNT Constitution does not extend extraterritorially and is therefore not applicable to events taking place in Barbados and to the Barbados police. The appeal document said the trial judge erred in law by failing to pay regard to and or consider at all and or disregarding that by virtue of the legal definition of Trinidad and Tobago as set out in the Constitution sections 1, 2 and 3.1 and having regard to the sovereignty of Barbados, the fundamental rights accorded to the first respondent, Thomas, accorded to the man, under sections 4 and 5 of the Constitution and the jurisdiction of the court were incapable of extraterritorial reach. Therefore, the judge erred in law in his finding that Thomas's fundamental rights were contravened in relation to acts occurring extraterritorially in the island of Barbados. Listen, I don't know if you all caught the legal language here. What they are arguing is that because it happened in Barbados, the Trinidad courts have no say on it. Now, if that is true, human trafficking becomes very easy to do. The argument that the TTPS is trying to put forward here, the Attorney General on behalf of the TTPS, is an argument for legal human trafficking. They're arguing that because Trinidad laws don't pertain to Barbados, you could kidnap someone in Barbados, and when you bring them to Trinidad, there's no consequence because the kidnapping was not done in Trinidad. So their rights were not contravened according to Trinidad's law. What? Y'all in the live, y'all in the chat. That making sense to y'all? Does that add up to you could go to the Sunday Express and read it. Now, I don't know how the appeal court is going to view this. I cannot wait to see the appeal court ruling on this. I cannot wait to see the appeal court ruling. But it's going to be interesting. I don't see how this appeal stands up in any court anywhere in the Commonwealth. The reasoning for that makes no sense. Do you all really think the security services in Barbados didn't know that was taking place? Mr. Face, who seems like an officer. Mr. Face, who seems like an officer. It's not about whether the police in Barbados understood or knew it was taking place. It's not about whether they knew it was taking place. If you kidnap someone in, let's say you go to Afghanistan and you kidnap a woman there and bring her back to Trinidad, should the fact that her kidnapping happened in Afghanistan mean that the Trinidad courts cannot do you anything about it? But how can a Minister of National Security refuse a summons of a judge? It was not a summons. The judge gave him a totally optional calling. The judge asked him to come forward, and he doesn't have to come. Everyone who disagrees with me is not an officer, Sylvan. Everyone who does is not. There are many people who disagree with me that I don't call officers on a regular basis. There's a specific argumentation line that I call for officers. Okay, so then the Barbados Police Service has to initiate that investigation. So, Mr. Face, you're not understanding the frustration of this. Here's what you're saying, Mr. If someone kidnapped me in Barbados and sold me to a Trini, and I am currently in Trinidad, the Trinidad courts cannot do anything. I have to try to get Barbados to start the investigation. Does that add up to you? Like really, does that add up? I guess that you can't do this if you have no extradition treaties. So Trinidad police have to go to court in Barbados for this case. Nah, that is madness. I don't think it functions like that. And bear in mind, this was already determined by a judge. Yes, Barbados has to initiate the process. Y'all are all trying to negate the statement of a Trinidad and Tobago judge already. Bear in mind, the appeal bear in mind, the appeal is trying to overturn a decision that was already made. A Trinidad and Tobago judge already decided this is nonsense. If you kidnap a Trinidad and Tobago citizen in Barbados and abduct him, if you abduct a Trinidad and Tobago citizen in Barbados and bring him over to Trinidad, you have contravened his rights. A judge already determined that. And he's already determining how much we have to pay him for this. This appeal is trying to hope that it gets overturned. Personally, I think it doesn't make sense and it will not work. Then, is it right for Middle Eastern law to be applicable in T&T? No, that's not what I'm saying, Sylvan. That's not what I am saying. I am talking about Trinidad law applicable in Trinidad. That's what I'm talking about. It's not that I want Barbadian law applicable in Trinidad. But if a Trinidad and Tobago police goes against the rights enshrined in the Trinidad and Tobago Constitution, against a Trinidad and Tobago citizen, even if they do it with the help of foreigners and they do it on foreign soil, I would like to know that our Constitution has some recourse for the person, nonetheless. Barbados is not Trinidad. Well, Sylvan, go argue with the judge. Go argue with the judge. Because the judge already determined that they abducted the man and went against his rights. And he threw out that investigation. The judge already said it. So if you continue with this view, and if you are an officer, well, Sylvan, we know that already. We spoke about this before. If you continue with this view, you will get more cases thrown out by more judges after you continue abducting people. Because the judge has already determined this is wrong. Good night, Insaf. We met the other night. Then maybe he will make a precedent in law and we'll see. The appeal suggests he erred. The appeal could suggest, you could say what you want. It's the appeal. We'd see what the appeal does. So, Sylvan, if or when the appeal is thrown out, would you say that the police are wrong? Would you finally be able? I would, you know what, Sylvan? If or when this appeal is thrown out, I would like a live where you would be willing to jump in the live and say, okay, according to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, I know you all are serious about the laws and making sure we have good laws. So according to the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, the police were wrong. That's all I want. That's all I want. Sylvan, Cremak, and Face. When or if the appeal court throws out this, come and say the police were wrong and they abducted the man from Barbados. I don't even understand why are you trying to defend this. Do you think it should be? If the police are wrong, maybe possibly the court must decide now. Face. The court already decided. The police is trying to appeal to say the court is wrong, but the court has already decided that the police were wrong. So I could say already the court has determined in Trinidad and Tobago that the police were wrong. We're trying to see now if on appeal they still hold that opinion. But it has already been determined, just by the way. So it's not a maybe possibly right now. It's already determined in a court of law. Question, why did the police not wait on his return to Trinidad? Well, they wanted him one time and they probably didn't know when he was going to return, if he was going to return. Matthew Camejo, so does this mean that our state has to pay him or the Barbadian government? Well, it's a Trinidad and Tobago court of law. We cannot force the Barbadian government to pay a cent. So it would be our state. If the Mr. Thomas wasn't innocent, then what was the police correct to? Then what? Was the police correct to take him? If he wasn't innocent, then what? Was the police correct to take him? I would still say no. If he left legally on a legal flight, leaving the country, and you have no legal right to stop the man, you can't take him. That's just how it works. He froze he caused a stop to the investigation. Well, I'm trying to find the exact word they use. A halt to the investigation. So yes, it was stopped, but there's a precise word that was used for the investigation being stopped. And them is alien on this, guys. How they can think this is right for the government? We're paying for them. Mr. T-Fed, it's kind of, but it speaks. It kind of speaks. When you see there are so many people in this country that want it to be, that you don't have constitutional rights. That's scary to me. I don't want that. Why is that wild, militant rockstar? That's what we want. Are you talking about Brent Thomas? Yes, that's what we're talking about. Why is that wild? Isn't that how our court system is supposed to work, militant? If the police overstepped their legal authority then we have recourse with the courts. I would like that, Insaf. I would like that. I have a conversation. I have my mindful conversations coming up. I wouldn't mind doing one with Gary. I wouldn't mind that at all if you could link that up, especially to talk about some of these things. So I wouldn't mind that at all. Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. Now, the other areas of the appeal get interesting. Yes, Sylvan, that's what I'm getting to now. That's what I'm getting to. That first area of the appeal is the main critique I have. Almost all of the other areas of the appeal, I could only say I can't wait to see what the appeal court is going to see. Because according to the other areas of appeal, what the police are basically alleging is that the judge didn't look at all of the evidence. The police are saying that the man's licenses were not up to mark for importing the banned and prohibited weapons. Now, the police are saying that the commissioner doesn't even have permission to grant him a license to import these prohibited weapons. That's part of the appeal. I think, though, some of what the police are alleging in the appeal would disrupt not only Mr. Thomas, but probably the last 15 years of licensing and firearms use in Trinidad and Tobago. Because if the police are alleging that the commissioner cannot even license him to own these weapons, but he has had them for over a decade. Who was the commissioner when he was importing firearms? It was under multiple commissioners, Mr. That's part of the problem. It was under multiple commissioners. He had licenses allegedly from the last acting commissioner, from the commissioner before that, he had licenses going back. Who can issue the licenses? The commissioner. And that's what the judge spoke about. The judge initially in his ruling said that the judge complained that the police will persecuting and prosecuting this man, going through these difficult measures for this investigation, while the man had licenses given by the commissioner of this very same police service. But the police in their appeal are alleging that, I believe, one of his licenses may be fraudulent, maybe, and even so, the commissioner doesn't have permission to give him a license for the prohibited weapons. And then they're saying also the TTPS, the Defense Force, and the state hasn't requested prohibited weapons from him since 2017. That was the date I read, I believe, 2017, if my memory serves me right. Yes. Is it? Yes. The grounds of appeal stated that the judge was plainly wrong and erred in law in disregarding the fact that Thomas's evidence that he was importing and in possession of prohibited weapons for supply to the TTPS and the Defense Force of Trinidad and Tobago was contradicted by the information received by ASP Birch from the TTPS and the Ministry of National Security that no requests were made by these entities to Thomas since 2017 for the acquisition of any prohibited weapons. Exactly. That's the question I was asking someone earlier today. So, if you're telling me, and this is why I'm saying what the police are alleging in their appeal here has wider reaching implications. I hope they understand that too. If what the police are alleging is true, that this man, one, the commissioner cannot grant him a license to import prohibited weapons. Let me make sure I read that for y'all. I'll make sure I pull that up so y'all don't think I'm just saying that bit. That's part of the appeal. that the commissioner does not have the ability, according to the Constitution, to grant the permission for these prohibited weapons. That's what the appeal is alleging. But beside that, they are also saying they didn't request prohibited weapons to possess. Okay, to possess these weapons. So, beside that, they're also saying they did not request anything from him. They did not request anything from him since 2017. So, 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 7 years, you're telling me that this man was just importing prohibited weapons for 7 years to do what? Like, come through with the allegations. Where were these weapons going? Who submit the appeal file? The Solicitor General's office. If you can break that appeal down and find loopholes, what can a judge do? Yeah, I think, personally though, my personal opinion is that this appeal isn't going to stand up. Great insaf, I like that. I like that. But I feel this appeal wouldn't stand up, personally. But it's a very interesting appeal. I think the allegations in this appeal kind of implicates the police even more. Well, maybe not the entire police service, but those who should be overseeing this. We'll do insaf. I'll message you about that. Those who should be discussing these things, they should be looking at this appeal. They should be looking at this appeal. Where did the space happen there? And they referred to that, you know. In the appeal, they spoke about it, where they referred to there being a little space. There seems to be a little space in the law. The law is written in such a way that there's kind of a little loop in it where someone can slip through, and there isn't that kind of trouble. The internal battle within the TTPS right now, I think so. I think so. Personally, my personal view, and I'm saying this is my opinion, the opinion of Nathan Springer. The opinion of Nathan Springer is that I think firearms dealer got in between a war possibly between a former commissioner and some entities of a political nature who have some amount of power and sway. I think there was a bit of a battle there, and he found himself in between that battle, and maybe he chose the wrong side of the battle, and he was punished accordingly for it. Because even if all the allegations of the police are 100% true, at the very least, the police turned a blind eye to this for a long time. At the very least, it would be suspicious that all of the facts surrounding this situation remained the same basically since 2017. And it took them 7 years to do something about it. Like, I don't think this was just a standard procedural investigation. And they happened to reach to him. This man owns a big business, a firearms business. He lives in Flagstaff. This isn't some regular run-of-the-mill guy. You don't go tackling people like this by mistake. I think he found himself in the middle of a battle where he was on the wrong side of the battle. He got caught in the crossfire. He would be a well-paid scapegoat. And that's the thing. That's the thing. That's the sad part about it. At the end of it, it seems like he's going to get a nice piece of money. And as disappointed as I am that Trinidad and Tobago has to go there and pay another person for nonsense done, I can't be upset with the man. Like, if you're a businessman and you're doing your business how you do your business in Trinidad and Tobago, and all of a sudden, because of political considerations, your entire life must be turned upside down. Like, they should pay you for that. They should have to pay you for that. Do you think a friend of a friend wants the contract he had to supply guns and ammunition? Oh! Woo! Now you're talking, bro. Now you're talking. Go through the grounds of the appeal. Sylvan, I might do that in a YouTube video. It might be a lot of legal language to just read through now. Answer the question: who gave him the permission to import and deliver to who? Well, his license was signed by the Commissioner of Police. His license was signed by the Commissioner of Police. So if you're talking about who gave him that permission, it would be the Commissioner, apparently. And import and deliver to who? I don't know. I do not know the inner workings of the man's business. Why is the state empowering arms dealers on this little island? Well, Mr. How else is the state going to get weapons? Like, what do you think? What do you think the state is? The state has to go through businesses to get business done. If you want firearms imported, you find someone who imports firearms to do it. Unless you're saying that you want the state to open up a Ministry of Import of National Firearms. If the state doesn't get someone to do it privately, then the state has to do it publicly. And the state is extremely inefficient. We may be a small island, but we supply the Caribbean with many things, true. But the police saying the commissioner can't give permission. Well, he can't give permission for possession. Now, the words there seem to be a little slippery. If he can give permission for importation, but he cannot give permission for possession, but they granted him import licenses previously, but then they stopped requesting from him in 2017, then obviously if he kept importing, he would have it in possession. So that seems like a kind of trick somewhere in there. So I don't know. The state can engage the foreign dealer directly. Yes, they can, but if they do that, the state has to hire someone to do that. Someone in the state has to go through the work of engaging the foreign dealer directly, building that relationship, placing the order, sending the payments, following the order, collecting. It's a job. The reason there is someone who does it is because it's a job. If he doesn't do it, the state will have to have someone to do it for them. Easy Day Sylvan says, I don't doubt that it's not an impossible thing to do. I don't doubt that. But I'm just saying someone would have to do it. And personally, if you're asking me, I don't want the state to create something to do it. Personally. Because pretty much every company, every state company is run inefficiently with great waste. If you want to see real guns reaching Trinidad, allow the state to control the importation of guns. Listen. Can you imagine public servants? Let me take a sip of the coffee to say this. Can you imagine public servants in charge of importing guns and ammunition into the country of Trinidad and Tobago? Kenrick Callan says, think outside the box. If the state gave permission, but somebody is not pleased with him to deliver. Kenrick Callan, if I think outside the box with this particular case, I could go extremely far. The fact is, I don't know all the facts around the case. I know a very limited peep into this thing. It may very well be that I don't doubt this is a possibility. I don't doubt this is a possibility. That the man indeed was functioning his business outside the legal purview. Because I do some business in Trinidad. I do teach, but I also do contracting. And good night to you to Kenneth Callan. And very regularly in Trinidad and Tobago, if you're being honest, if all of us are being honest, if you run a business in Trinidad, there's a reasonably high possibility that some aspect of your business runs not 100% within the legal scope, because the laws are just so wide ranging too, it may even be very difficult to do just that. That's just the fact. So it may very well be that the man's business was running like that for some time, but it may have been that it was running like that with the knowledge of people and people in high positions. So he had no worry about that. But then when you lose friends with some of those people in those high positions, it could all come crashing back down on you. Customs should be under national security. Why is it under finance? No monitoring is being done, Insaf says. Well, I think nobody actually wants to control customs, because I don't know for a fact, but I don't doubt if you could see the kind of black market money that passes through customs on a daily basis, it may make us whistle. I don't doubt it. So that would be a very ticklish thing for someone to touch. That's the kind of thing that you could get yourself murdered for. That's the kind of thing that you could get yourself passed out for, interfering with that amount of money passing through. Somebody may not appreciate that. Somebody may not appreciate that. All right, people. All right. It is after 11. It was nice. As usual, I enjoy this. If there are no further comments or questions, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained, and I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow evening around that 9:30 p.m. time. You can catch me on Instagram, you can catch me on TikTok, you can catch me on YouTube. Be sure to head over to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. You can catch other videos dropping there on a semi-regular basis. As I get busy, sometimes they pull back a bit. As I get some more time, I push out much more content on my YouTube. That's probably some of my favorite content, the longer form where, I could explain what I'm thinking and all of that. So if you're interested in that stuff, head over to my YouTube channel, Nathan Spring, over there. You can also see all of the previous Mindful Lives. They are also over there. Feel free to check it out. This, as per usual, has been brought to you by Mindful Education, which is the educational institution that I run. We offer learning pod classes from preschool stages right up to CXC. They are classes with a small nuclear group, around 6 students and their tutor, aiming to get that much more familiar comfort in learning, boost the speed and the comfort with which the children learn. If you're interested in such, be sure to get into contact with us. Mindful Education, mindful_education over there on Instagram, or message me wherever you see me. We also offer private tutoring for CXC and CAPE, more CXC and CAPE subjects. If you're interested in those, be sure to hit us up. But until the next time, people, laters. It was nice. Peace. Hold it down. Hello back. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you returned. Laters.